This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Tom, I want to start with your initial question at the SEC teleconference to Coach Pittman. You played Missouri State last year, of course, headed up by Bobby Petrino. You've got film already on Texas A&M. How much of a benefit is that for Coach Williams, Coach Pittman, and this defense heading into this matchup on Saturday?
Yeah, good morning, guys. And I don't know, from a conceptual standpoint, we know what Bobby Petrino likes to do. He likes to create stuff where your crossing routes are open, get the ball to guys in space, and his Missouri State team did a good job of that last year. And Jason Shelley broke the pocket and ran a few times, and it hurt him. And so it's interesting that on Monday, Sam Pittman said he saw, not a huge difference from Texas A&M schemes last year to this year, and even saw some like Jim Chaney influence, and he's an analyst for them now. So there's some Bobby Petrino, there's some carryover with their talent, and now the Razorbacks are going to have to prepare for a guy who moved the ball on him actually pretty well last year. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of an interesting mix.
So when you go from what LSU had in Neighbors and Thomas to what A&M has, how much of a difference in talent do you see, if any, between the Aggie wide receivers and the LSU ones?
Well, coming into the season, people thought A&M's wide receiving core might be like its deepest ever. I mean, they've got a big-time recruit in Muhammad who's really not racking up a bunch of stats yet. But, it's Stewart and it's Anaya Smith. He's back for another year, and he's going to be a problem in the slot. So, top-end speed, maybe Neighbors last week offered a little bit more. And, Arkansas really went into that game with a good game plan, and the first three series they kept, LSU pretty much contained. But eventually, whenever they sensed and, knew Arkansas was in man, they tried to get Neighbors or Thomas in the slot matched up against Singletary, who had a tough game in coverage. And so, does that mean Jalen Braxton starts to play more? I'm taking this into another dimension, but yes, A&M's receivers, I think, are comparable. I don't know about complete top-end speed other than Smith is fast and Stewart is fast, and they have other guys too. And I got a chuckle out of what Chuck said a minute ago. There were hints of Sam Pittman when you guys were talking hoops, that Alabama's a tough standard right now, and that's kind of who you're going against. But we got a good one too, and that's what Sam Pittman has said. If his team can go on the road to play number 12 LSU, who might be as good as anybody in the conference, and they can have the mistakes that they had and still be right there in the game, then he feels good. If they play well on a given Saturday, they can compete with people. And it happens so often in this rivalry with A&M that little things have cropped up. I mean, last year is a perfect example. The KJ jump from the 3 turns into a touchdown, and then, running the clock down because you have this almost automatic field goal kicker, but then you have the muff snap off Stromberg's back end, and you lose 9, and then he doesn't make the field goal. It's just weird stuff that Arkansas outplayed A&M, and they didn't win the game. So they need to outplay A&M and have things break in their favor for once to get this trophy game back on their side.
Tom Murphy joining us on the McClarty-Daniel hotline. We know Connor Wagman is out for the year now. That means Max Johnson will go the rest of the way, presumably, for the Aggies. Willing runner. Tom, what are you expecting to see from the quarterback slot this week with Max Johnson getting, I believe, his 18th start in the Southeastern Conference with a second different school?
Well, thanks for adding that up, man. I'll be able to put that into use tomorrow for notes. But, I think back to last year's game. It wasn't some extravagant game plan. And when you think about that, he had a touchdown pass, but there was an Arkansas defender, and I forgot who it was, maybe Malik Chavis, that, maybe overran. The guy was like in the end zone. And so their touchdown, I'm not calling it a fluke because, the guy was open, but a defender was there and just didn't get his head turned around. But they didn't get extravagant with all the things they were asking him to do. Obviously, Petrino, a different type of play caller, might open things up more for him. But you can guarantee that having to run to get first downs will be in his mind. And actually, Arkansas did a decent job. I mean, Jaden Daniels had a few decent runs last week, but he didn't tear them up the way he's torn some teams up. And I just think that if they can keep their rush lanes disciplined and not let Johnson convert 3rd and 5s and stuff like with his legs, you know, they might be in decent shape to win the game.
You mentioned penalties a moment ago. Those weren't as costly as some have thought throughout the week, but they're still a problem. How do you clean that up, and can you turn that completely around in a week's time?
Yeah, I don't know, and that's one of those kind of $64 million questions. The penalties could have been costly, like the holding calls were against BYU, but they happened to overcome them by making 8 of 13 third down conversions. I mean, KJ had a pretty good game. I think Dan Enos had a nice game plan for LSU, and if they can convert anywhere near 8 of 13 going forward, they're going to be in good shape. But yeah, if it's not holding, then it's false starts, and obviously, you know, the crowd noise should not be as big of a factor as it was last Saturday. But I think that played a role, and then I think the timing of how quickly they got plays in, how quickly they got set, made their checks, and where the play clock was a factor last week. And so obviously they worked on that, so they're at the line quicker and trying to make adjustments quicker. And then what would happen is then the LSU defensive front would move. Mm-hmm. And when you're that close, knowing you're going to have to snap it soon and there's movement, that kind of plays in your head, and that led to some of the false starts.
One of the offensive linemen that played didn't start last week was Devin Manuel, and we also referenced Malik Chavis earlier. So you've got them two and then Rocket. I think they're all going to play based on what Coach sounded like this week. Tom, what's your read on those specific guys heading into Saturday?
Yeah, I would agree with you. I mean, it's been 3 years that we've heard the way Sam Pittman references guys coming back from injury, and so you have to kind of play his history into what he says and what you interpret from it. Mm-hmm. But what we saw with our own eyes is that Rocket Sanders was not in green. He was cutting. He was doing drills. And I know they backed off him some yesterday to see what his knee would do. And I think if his knee responded well, then we could see 10, 12 carries, as I mentioned on Tuesday, on Saturday. And, you know, not the kind of production or usage that he had in his prime last year, but at least getting him back in the fold. I'm not sure about A.J. Green's availability or amount that he can play with his shoulder, but the good thing is they have depth there, and Dubinion is coming off a really good game. So I feel pretty good about the tailback situation.
And hadn't been necessarily talked about a bunch this week with Green's status. So I'm curious, again, what he's going to do on Saturday. Tommy made a good point in the first hour about a morale boost of getting Rocket back. You're not getting the full Rocket Sanders, but even a few plays, a handful, like you're saying, 10 to 12. What do you think that does for the team's psyche, getting a captain and their star running back at least on the field at some points?
Yeah, all those things you just mentioned. I mean, he's a leader. We talked to Dubinion this week, and he's like, hey, man, Rocket's been there. I mean, just showing, like, I'm here and helping them. And he's a good kid. I think Rocket's an outstanding kid. And I do believe it will lead to whatever confidence boost or what have you. And then, you know, the depth, because as we just mentioned, A.J. Green, not sure how much he'll be able to run.
Tom, let's close you out on this. 38 different players, or 38 players on the Arkansas roster are newcomers between portal and high school players. They haven't played in this Southwest Classic. Most have never played a game in AT&T Cowboys Stadium. We think it's old hat for a team like Arkansas that does this every year, but you know, for a good chunk of your roster, this scene, these bright lights, this NFL stage, it will be new for a good portion of your team.
Yeah, it will be, but I don't think it takes long in a game to kind of overcome the awe of that big Jumbotron and that kind of stuff. And we know how the emphasis Sam Pittman puts on these trophy games, and now they've gone 4 in a row now without winning one of their rivalry games. And so I think they're going to be very eager to get a trophy back in their shelf. You know, hey, look, they've performed well in their bowl games, so they're winning those trophies, but to have the annual rivalry game trophies back is a big deal for Sam Pittman. So there's going to be plenty of motivation for them this weekend. And then just knowing what's immediately in front of you. I mean, no team – Kirk Herbstreit said this on the broadcast. We've been saying it no team in the country is going to face a 4-game stretch like Arkansas is in the middle of. In game one, yeah, they competed very well. They gave themselves a chance on the road, and they need to do the same on Saturday to kind of break the little deal they're in.
I don't think we've seen Jerry smile like he did 2 years ago since '96 when his Cowboys won the Super Bowl. He finally got to give Sam Pittman that trophy. Tom, we appreciate it, man. Enjoy your stuff. See you this weekend at AT&T Stadium, all right?
Sounds good. Everyone have a great weekend. See ya.
BetOnline is your number one source for all your betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for baseball, boxing, golf, and more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.